let me share with you the link once it's actually ready. And I mean, just like
I can watch the live stream while I'm talking.
yeah, kind of. But that's going to be like really distracting for you, I think. All right, so
Yeah, I'd
we're
rather not do that.
yeah, we're officially live. And let me send you the link so you can actually check it out. I mean, it's just like a black screen right now, so all right.
What's the delay?
Uh, no, no, it's just like I haven't really set anything up. That
Oh,
like
okay, I see, I
that's
see.
like that's like literally I got nothing. Uh,
Okay, so that's a good way to not get
yeah,
any
we're
traffic.
officially live. Oh crap!
And now I hear now I hear it.
You hear it? All right, I just sent you the live stream link. Did you get it? Yeah.
Yes, but I'm on my iPad, so once I open it, it might kick Discord's out.
Oh really? All right, never mind. No worries. Okay, well, guess what? We're officially live. So this is actually kind of interesting experience. All right, I mean, this is kind of like a. Do you have anything you want to say to yourself, like I don't know, 5 years from now, when you rediscover this stream, be like, oh my god, what did I do?
I hope my name never comes out, and I never see this again.
Well, have some good positive thoughts. Come on. All right, cool. So, anyways, I just finished The Last of Us, and that's
So did
what
you
I.
finish today?
Yes, I
Did
finished
you
it today.
finish
Yeah, I
the
finished it
last
today.
part a couple hours ago? Okay.
Yes, I finished the last part a couple hours ago, and as I was playing through the game, actually, I have a lot of thoughts. Right? I mean, that's the the originally reason why I wanted to start doing this. Like I mentioned,
I think,
be fun
yeah,
to talk about it. So
yeah. It is a good game for that, in that it does elicit some level of emotion, whether it be good or bad.
some level of emotion. All right. Actually, okay. So I think it will be a good fun thing to talk about. It's like, so Jeff, what did you feel? Like, what is the top of mind? Like after you beat it, during the time that you were playing with it, like how did you feel?
So I'll start with the the ending part. So like I told you, I was probably starting. I think on Thursday or Friday, I started day one of Abby.
Okay.
Um, and by that point, you're at like you finish most of Ellie's story, and you're like, okay, this is almost done. So you're gonna have a short little flashback, and then you'll go back into present day and like wrap it up.
Right.
Um, but it just keeps going, going.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that too, actually. Yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah.
I still remember feeling so, like in one of the early scenes with Abby, you pick up a coin from like one of the states or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
okay, that's interesting. And then once you pick up a coin from another state, it's like, oh my god, there's gonna be 50 more collectibles.
Yes. Yes.
This is gonna take a while.
Right, right.
Um, so it was kind of dragging me along because you don't know how long it's gonna be, and you just kind of keep on going. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then, but then it just keeps on going, and all of a sudden you're in Santa Barbara, and you're still playing,
Right.
and you're still killing people. So there's a little bit of like
Longer.
frustration there, I would
Yeah.
say, in that it was set up in a way that it kind of lingered longer than it needed to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But at the same time, though, Jeff, you power through this whole thing. Like you played it, yeah, you played it on Saturday, dude. Honestly, if I were not in the right mindset to really play, I mean, I played a lot slower pace than you did, obviously.
Yeah.
But even yesterday and today, I think I got to fairly. I actually there are multiple instances toward the end of the game. I mean, closer to the end of the game, I was like, okay, I guess this is it. Boy, was I wrong. And then I was wrong again. Yeah, I just kept on going, and then I was like, all right, so how long is this really gonna be? And Yeah, I definitely hear you though. But again, I was also kind of thinking because I really wanted to talk to you about other things that actually happened in the game, and I was trying to force myself to to
Ah,
do this, which I don't think is the right mindset to really experience this because this game is really meant to kind of you play for a few hours, really
yeah,
engage, maybe come back at a later time, like when you're
I
yeah
agree.
yeah
It is a game where you probably should be taking breaks and thinking about things. So there's some of the pacing issues with the game, but in terms
hmm
of you talk about the feelings that it makes you, that it tries to elicit in you. It is it's a difficult game to play through sometimes because it is brutally violent.
right
It kind of leaves you with a bit of emptiness towards the end,
right.
where you're kind of like, okay, what the hell is Ellie doing? Why is she doing these things?
I know, dude. Oh my god. Like honestly, but this is a really good theme though. Like actually, so I played Last of Us, the first one, and I was really blown away by the subtext. The subtlety of how the character got developed, and like Ellie is this like hero, and it's like a classic hero story, right? Like she has some property that she can just she manifested that she can save the world essentially, and
Yeah,
the twist at the end kind of subverted that, and like and also that vagueness was actually done right. Like you don't know what to
yes,
make of it, and it's actually very interesting. It's also very different from the mainstream Hollywood narratives, right? Like a mainstream Hollywood narratives is always about you're trying to you're the I mean there's a hero, there's a good guy, there's the bad guy, and then the good guy always wins. And it's like very clear cut, and then heroic like music sounds like all that kind of shit, right? Like and then
yeah,
for the first one you get that kind of subversion, right? And so but at the same time this despite having that subversion you still know that Ellie is the good guy, and you still know very clear that Joel is the good guy from the first, even from the first. I mean, they're trying to make a commentary about Joel not being a good guy in the first one, but it's very clear that he's still a good guy because he cares very much about Ellie, right? Like he kind of like softened his character over the course of the
right,
first game, and then
yes,
in this game, honestly, this heroic character is getting you know I don't know, like a destroyed or like a, kind of getting thrown out of the water. Like you just see Ellie. Like you still think that she has matured, and also because of her character from the first one. I don't know if you still remember. She has this like very bubbly kind of sunshine kind of voice, like a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke kind of thing that goes on with her. I don't know if you remember, like that's like a very early part of the game, but like that's still part of her, right? And so I was under that impression that's still within her. She is still the hero. And as time goes on, I remember there's like one moment she was just like killing some random dudes she found like without hesitance, and then she was cussing at them at the time when she was doing it, and I was like, "Damn, Ellie, like what the hell is going on?" She was like, "Fuck those guys, man! Like fuck wolves." And at that moment, I was like, "Ellie, you're not a good guy anymore. Like like
no, she's not.
yeah, she is not. She's like I think that's the first sign of it. And then as time goes on, you see more of the stuff that she did. She killed without sympathy. She doesn't really empathize with other people, and she just kind of like she's really driven. I give her that, but she was like a more and more emerged as a fallen hero in my head. Like she used to be heroic, now she's not, and she has taken on this like villainous type of vibe to her. Although
Yep.
not 100%, right? Like a not 100%
Well,
villain.
everything is laid out to be like various shades
Y-
of
Yeah,
gray
yeah,
in the story, and it is very similar with Joel. And like you said,
yeah,
Joel is supposed to be kind of the hero, but course of The Last of Us 1, he has this trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
I think in The Last of Us 2, they play with this idea a lot with, like, you know, kind of both redemption and revenge.
Right.
As the paths that people take. And Abby, you know, Abby's story is made to parallel Joel's.
Yeah. Joel?
In many ways.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, so when I look at Abby, I see, you know, at the start of the story, when you start to play with her, she is in some way seeking some form of redemption for herself. Right. She comes in the story fairly hard. She's, you know, taken all of her friends across the country to get revenge for her father.
Ah, okay.
And like, they weren't very happy with it.
Right.
She kind of dragged them along, and now she's back, and you know, she feels very compelled to rescue Lev,
Mm-hmm.
rescue Yara.
Right.
And she doesn't. She's not really able to explain why.
Right. Right.
In the same way, I feel like Joel has a similar situation where he, you know, he was not interested at all in taking Ellie across the country.
Right. He was like really hesitant at the start.
Exactly.
Right.
And like he starts doing it, he gets more involved, and by the end, you know, he forms this very strong relationship. And I see that in this similarly with Abby and Lev, where
Interesting.
at the end, like, you know, terrible stuff has happened.
Right.
But now she's found something that is much more important, and that, you know, she doesn't need to kill Ellie out of revenge.
Right. Right.
She's kind of done with that.
Right.
So I see those two very similar, and Ellie kind of a little bit all over the place, but maybe goes in the opposite direction.
Right. Right. Oh my God! Like Ellie is just like a downward spiral. Like she was so confused. Like she just dazed all the time, and she doesn't know why that's the case. But you know the point that you made about like that juxtaposition between Joel and Abby, it's that's a little unexpected, to be honest, because the whole time before I talked to you, in my mind the juxtaposition was completely just between Ellie and Abby. Honestly though, like I didn't expect this, but I see why people were really outraged. So after Joel got killed, right, by Abby, and you're done with the whole Ellie arc. And then all of a sudden you got switched over to Abby. And honestly though, like as much as I appreciate what they're trying to do, but this is very rough landing for any type of person, you know, like it's just like done too violently because you saw her, right? Like your immediate reaction is like, oh my God, I hate her. Like she killed like the person that you played. So I mean, through this experience, obviously you played a lot as Joel. And you still have this kind of like connection with Joel in some ways, and even if you didn't in the very beginning, you can see that he has grown to be very kind, right, and very tolerant, like an old wise kind of person. And then all of a sudden she came in without saying anything, bashed his head with the golf club, and then there's that, right? No explanation for the next like however many hours. I mean, honestly though, I enjoyed the first part of Last of Us 2 a lot better, now I think about it. But anyways, continue with the thought process here. So, and then after all that experience, right, like the second part, and you started to play as Abby. And no matter who you are, there's always going to be cognitive dissonance right there. Like, you're like, oh my God, this is the villain. And she literally killed the person that I cared a lot about. And how do you expect me to feel? Like, I want to kill her, you know? Like, that's the immediate reaction. So I found that the early part of the second part was really hard for me. Like, because of this cognitive dissonance. But at the same time, I was very much aware. You know, Naughty Dog did this intentionally. In fact, like, I actually applauded them for. I mean, in my head, I applauded them. There's no audience or anything, but like applauded them for doing this because this is very daring and very experimental, and further goes with highlighting the theme that there's really no hero, and that there's no real good or bad. There's not really that clear cut, and that the good guys that you always celebrate for might just be the bad guy, like that kills the whole family. Because if you think about it, that's literally what you did, right? Like you killed all these like wolf guys, you killed all these like guys from the
Former Fireflies.
yeah, the form of fireflies, and they have family. They love each other. They are capable of being sad, and who gives you the divine right to be hero? To no one should excuse that. But so I from that perspective, I get what Naughty Dog's trying to say, but it was still hard for me to connect with the character. Although as time goes on, I liked Abby a lot better. Honestly, I liked her a lot better, and
And I think
yeah.
so the main problem was
Right.
kind of you're right. They took a very bold position because you all the players are very invested in Ellie, even though she's kind of gone batshit crazy,
Right.
and just like murdering people left and right.
Right. Right.
And and murder, like, maybe that's part of the reason why they make it extremely violent. Like I think most people are not supposed to feel good when you're going around with Abby,
Right.
or sorry, with Ellie doing all of those things.
Right.
But I think the majority of players were like, yeah, go Ellie, go Ellie, go Ellie, go Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that kind of reaction. Yeah.
They underestimated how beloved Joel and Ellie are, despite like trying to make them, or specifically
The
Ellie,
bad
do some
guy,
pretty
right?
rough stuff, right?
Right.
In everyone's mind, she is still the hero, and Abby is still the villain.
Right.
So when they do that kind of sudden switch flashback, I like, for many people, Abby was not redeemable.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
As much as her character goes through this path, like literally of redemption, like everyone is super done with her by the time she shows up, and just really frustrated with the fact that they have to fight with her.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think this is super interesting. I think this idea of redemption, let's just put a bookmark on that. But I think the comparison is so great because Ellie and Abby go through the same 3 days, right? Like from the gameplay structure standpoint, man. Now say it out loud, it sounds literally like a novel, or like the classic. If you want to compare the two characters, you just put them in the same situation and see how they react, right?
Yeah.
And so essentially, Abby and Ellie go through the same 3 days in Seattle, and they actually experience a lot of the same events, right? They, I can't really point to it, but like I remember they go I remember there's like a couple of scenes that I have seen that actually happened. Okay, actually, yeah, happened during the flashback. It shows like Abby is a person. She cares a love, and she actually has this sense of justice within her, right? And so, like, especially that chase scene with her father, and her relationship with Owen. I mean, I don't think there's any significance in that relationship, but the fact that there is a relationship that she really is invested in, and she goes out of her way to save other people. Ellie kind of goes through the same thing, and actually, now I think about it, like for this comparison, I'm gonna withhold my point because I probably need to think back a little further about how exactly they're similar. It's just kind of like a vague impression in my head that they went through some of the same stuff, but their reaction is slightly different as time goes on. Especially with regard to how they treat each other. I think Ellie at the end, she was just really, really driven by the idea. I don't know. Should you call it revenge, or should you just call it like she is just really confused and she doesn't really know what else to do? In this like kind of like she doesn't have any campus to guide her. Like this is the only thing she is capable of doing, and this is the only thing that she can think of doing, right?
Right.
Right. And
I
yeah,
think for now we can call it revenge, though.
yeah,
Like later we'll have to touch on that because I
yeah.
don't think that's kind of the theme that they're trying to
I
convey.
re
But yeah, she's very much consumed by it.
Yeah, she's very consumed by that idea. Something very abstract. I don't even know what to call it. I definitely I know that maybe we should just call it revenge, but at the same time, it's very different from revenge, you know? Because I kept getting these images that Ellie is so she's like looking blankly at the world, you know? And she's looking over the places and I just can't feel anything. She just like feels so lost, you know. And this idea of being lost is actually very much echoed by what she said to Joel at the very end. Do you remember? Like, so she was meant to be the hero, right? And Joel saved her out of his own selfishness. You can put it that way, right? Like because he doesn't want to lose again, right? And actually, wow, there's so many echoes. All of a sudden, like the song, the opening song, like if I were to lose you, I would lose myself. Like that's literally that's literally the theme for Joel. Like he lost Sarah in the first Last of Us, right? And then in the second one, he doesn't want to repeat the same thing. No matter how noble you paint it, but it's still selfish. Like he is trying to think just for himself, right?
Yeah, Ellie, definitely wants
Right.
to go through with it.
Yes, and
So what it takes.
yeah, in fact, I can see that in her, because to her, like she's like really into comics, right? Like she's really into this superheroes. I think that she made like a lot of comments in the first game about like she's like super into this like comics, like comic nerd type of vibe you get from her. So being heroic, like being a martyr for a cause is like something really really worth pursuing. Like that's what she wanted, right? And Joel saved her because he is selfish, and then Ellie
Did you play the DLC for the first game?
left behind.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Right. So
Yeah.
the DLC explores that a little bit, where the DLC is strictly focused around Ellie,
Right.
and it takes place just before the game,
Uh-huh.
the first game,
Right.
with part of it in the middle where Ellie has to go on a quest and get some bandages for Joel, who fell on a pipe or something like that. But in Left Behind, the story revolves around Ellie and essentially her best friend is left over at the time.
Right, right.
I forget the names, but
Yeah, I know who you're talking about because back when that came out, it was a huge thing because it's like a openly gay game characters, right? Yeah,
well,
yeah.
there's some of that in this game too. But
Well, I mean that too, but I don't think that's really the focus because I think place any genders here. Honestly, this is what I like about Naughty Dog. Like they're not trying to tell a story of LGBTQ. They're really trying to tell the story of humans. Like no matter how now we think Joel is a villainous in a way, he is still human, right? Like honestly, like what Tommy was saying, like if he were to place in that situation, he'd probably done the same thing. And honestly, I think that most people probably would have done the same thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's like a game of the humans. But sorry for the interruption. Go ahead and
Well,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
the main I guess message from the first game or from the DLC is that she gets bitten
mhm,
along with her friend,
mhm,
and at that point she's like, their plan is just to sit together and slowly go crazy together and become zombies.
right,
But that doesn't happen to her, and it only happens to her friend.
right, right,
So at that point, she's kind of given this new life, this new opportunity,
right,
where she feels like she should not have, and she feels like the way to like make that matter,
right,
make the
right,
second chance matter, is to give up that life for this greater cause,
right, right.
right? and that's what was taken away from her by Joel,
Right.
and why it makes it so difficult for her to forgive him.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Because to be honest, this is such a cruel, cruel thing. Like the same story of newfound powers, right? Like all of a sudden you have this power, you have this responsibility to act on it, right? Like imagine, for example, like a Spider-Man. He had this newfound power of swinging around the city and save people and save the world essentially, and someone were to be there and just take that away. But okay, actually, Spider-Man example may not be so poignant, but the idea is there's like a hero given the second chance to really make something of this life, right?
Right.
And that chance is taken away, and then what does the hero do? You know, like I feel like some part of this is also explored in Watchmen, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, you're looking at the classic hero, but now the world doesn't really need them anymore, right? Like there's no purpose, right? There's no meaning in them at all. And then you see this like a group of people who just there, right? Like who has no place to go, like not like literally no place to go, but like has no direction. And then you see the comedian, is that what
Yeah.
yeah, the comedian, and then he just kept on falling, right? Like he does literally all the villainous thing there is, and just kept on falling. I don't remember the other details, but I think that theme was also explored there. But the idea is that if you take the purpose and if you take this meaning away from the person who care very much about that meaning, and all shit goes, goes to the fan, right? Yeah, and I think the Ellie story in this The Last of Us 2 is exactly that. It's like what happens to the person when the person has nothing else to really live for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, I really
Because
enjoy that part. Yeah.
I didn't think of it so much like that,
Okay.
in terms of like Ellie's action,
Right.
because I guess the impression that the game gives you from the start is that it is a lot of revenge.
Right.
It's kind of hitting you over the head because you know life in Jackson is pretty good,
Right.
all things considered. Like,
Right.
dance, they hang out, she has a partner. Like things there are pretty good, and she is driven to these extents by kind of the thirst for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And what they show you in the very last scene, very last scene or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
is that Ellie has not forgiven Joel.
She liked to try.
She wants to.
Yes. Yes.
She wants to, and that is what is taken away from her by Abby, when Abby goes wrong, right? So now Ellie is kind of deprived of that ability to forgive, and she's just burdened with that guilt. So it's both, she seeks revenge for Joel in order to try to amend for her inability to forgive someone that she cares a lot about.
Right.
So that's where to me, I feel like it starts off as like this cold revenge thing that seems kind of crazy. Before it seems more like, okay, this is kind of her quest. This is in a way her quest for redemption. She needs to be able to forgive, and she needs to get the opportunity back to forgive.
Right. Yeah, that's
Naughty Dog always tries to like lay it out as
right.
they want their stories to still have heart,
Right.
and they want to make it not be just like a game about cold-hearted revenge, like which
Right.
is an okay thing nowadays because we all love John Wick.
Well, I think we love John Wick not because it's a revenge story, but because like how cool he kills people. You know, like I think that's why people watch it. Because honestly, I totally forgot that John Wick is a revenge tale until you start to draw the the association with it. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but
Well, of course, there's more to it, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it felt cheap at first. I would say
Hmm.
it's trying when it seems to come off as this big revenge tale,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the goal, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be, these stories of redemption and forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the lengths that you should go to try to get that.
Right, right. Actually, about that point that Abby robbed Ellie of the chance to forgive Joel, and that's why Ellie has this such a difficult time in the game. I actually had a completely different idea about that because like maybe it's just me reading too much about this like a life with no purpose or a life when purpose is taken away. Then what do you do? Because honestly, that's the starting point, right? And I think the last scene happened right before everything unfolded, right?
Yes.
And so technically, at the end of that scene, you can kind of see that there's some sort of reconciliation between Joel and Ellie, and whether Ellie actually forgave Joel for what he did, uh, I don't really know. But yeah,
I feel like they make it
yeah,
like maybe if you take it super literally, then
right.
it's just like no, I would like to try.
Yeah,
I haven't yet, but I would like to try.
right, right. Yeah, but
Days then.
she kind of said it with kind of like a smirk, almost like back to her like old, just saying like shit kind of like attitude, like a kind of like tongue in cheek kind of jokey attitude. Yeah, I like to try. Like, I thought that's why I remember there was some sort of reconciliation. Maybe I have to review that scene again. But the point that I want to say is that because you see a lot of times that Ellie didn't kill Abby at the end, right? And a lot of people really hated it, right? But that's what other people think, and I have a different read on that. And
So what were you thinking of that?
yeah,
Were you
I
cheering
mean,
for her to do it, or
no, I felt like I know at the time, like honestly, when she got to Barbara, like in my head, there's already like a couple of scenarios that I was trying to play out. Either they, for example, Abby saved, Ellie saves Abby from death, so that they can reconcile. Like this is the classic, like feel good type of reconciliation above all kind of ending, right? Or yeah, or both of them go through hardship together. They grow into to kind of like
they're not going to become friends?
yeah, they're not gonna become friends, but they reconcile to some degree, right? Like I was kind of expecting that, and so that was my expectation coming into it. And then as time goes on, toward the end, at that moment when she had a chance to do that, but she hesitated. She actually hesitated a lot, if you remember, right? Like she found Abby. She could have just killed her right there then when she was still hung up. But instead, what she do? She cut her down, and then she could also just like shoot her right there then, right? There's like in that short walk, there's an infinite number of moments where she could have done it. But why does she want to do this? Because she really doesn't want to kill Abby, but at the same time, like she couldn't make up her mind, and then she went back to the boat, and then a flashback of Joel's bleeding head showed up, right? And then she said, no, I can't let you leave, right? That's the immediate thing that happens after that. So I'm concluding because like she remembered it, and then she was like, no, like there's a reason I'm here. But the thing is, I think at that moment, like what she thought was the reason for her to be there is different from what she understood at that moment, which she thought her reason there was to seek revenge. But instead, I think she was there to really find closure of some sort, and that closure wasn't to kill more, you know. And I think that at some point, she came to realize that, maybe not consciously. Again, this is me reading a lot into it, right? Like, but I really don't think she was really there to kill Abby, because I think she just wants closure, and she just wants to forget about. I don't know if you actually read in the journal entries that she actually had, talking about how she sees Joel's bleeding head again and again, and she draws him all the time, right? So, like, why is she seeing that? Like, she doesn't understand herself, but it was part of her that she was trying to find an answer, find an end to that. And so I was like, okay, so what does it mean? Like, how do you find closure over there? Which I still don't 100% understand, but I thought, like, the only way she found closure was to offer forgiveness. You know, when you say it out loud, it sounds really dumb. You know, like, sure, like, it sounds like a Bible reading, right? Like, the only way to I guess, like, I don't know, like, achieve immortality is to, okay, Bible doesn't really say that, but, like, through forgiveness, right? But, like, I think she was really looking for a chance to forgive, and the guy to forgive wasn't Joel, and the guy to forgive that would actually keep her, you know, from seeing that image again, is to make peace with Abby, you know, like, and not through killing her, because no matter what you do, like, when you kill someone, like, I haven't really done that before. Just an announcement. But I guarantee there's probably some part of you is getting gnawed at all the time, right? You know, like, you kept thinking about it, right? And killing is just not the answer, you know? Like, it sounds really cliche that world peace is what this is really preaching for, but I think she was able to come to terms with that, and then she was able to forgive Abby through that process. Although it was a very laborious process, I really, really hated that sequence. But I also thought that they could have come to that point in some other way, to be, yeah, way earlier, to be, okay, I forgive you, Abby. You know, but well, I'm not a game director, and I don't know how to really design for it. But there's got to be a better way than, you know, that last 15 minutes of drudgery trying to beat the shit out of. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I just feel that, you know, there's got to be another way to show that forgiveness, right? But I still, for some reason, I still believe that's what actually offered the closure to Abby. I mean, to Ellie. And
I never get the impression that, you know, for Ellie, it's not about Abby at all. And this is where, you know, I draw the parallels between Abby and Joel.
mm-hmm.
You know, Ellie is on this quest for herself, in, you know, quest of revenge / forgiveness, because when you have been slighted, those are kind of the two options.
Right.
You have forgiveness and revenge, and she is, you know, trying to forgive Joel for what he took from her, and seeing a little bit of Joel and Abby, I think that forgiveness of Abby and forgiveness to Joel kind
Interesting.
of echo each other.
That's a very good takeaway. That's very interesting. Maybe, like, she saw Joel in Abby, trying to look after.
Or
Yeah.
someone realizing,
Right.
do it. And,
Right.
you know,
Right.
there are some parallels there.
That's actually very true. That's actually very true.
The other one, you know, the motif of revenge versus forgiveness is the entire reason behind the entire wolf Seraphite conflict as well, right?
Yes.
You have this passing story of, like, oh, you know, they attacked us first. No, we just retaliated. It's like, no, they attacked us and we retaliated. Japan
Right.
Before then, all of a sudden, you have this, like, all-out war.
Right.
Where the island is engulfed in flames and there's people dying everywhere.
Yeah. Actually,
And
that.
within that backdrop,
Yeah.
there's this like small story of revenge, but forgiveness too.
Right. Right. Yeah. Actually, I think that motif or theme of revenge um, and let's say forgiveness, it's throughout the story, right? Like your inability. I'm not saying Ellie is impacted by that, but you see it from a player's perspective. You see it from the wolves' perspective, right? You see it from the Seraphite's perspective, and their whole conflict is, like kind of like revenge. I think from piecing together different pieces within the game, it seems like just the Seraphite leader got taken away and then she got killed, right? And that's what actually started this whole thing. And that conflict is very much similar to, Romeo and Juliet story, except for without Romeo and Juliet being involved, right? And and that same story is also within Ellie and Joel and Abby's whole interaction, right? Like, it's like cross generation, right? Like Joel started it, and killed Abby's father, and Abby came back to kill Joel, and she tried to give Ellie and Tommy a second chance because there's still a sense of justice within her, right? Actually, that's one of the reason I kind of liked her, like as time goes on, because she is not as lost as Ellie. Because from Ellie, there's no sense of justice. There's only people that you care about, and yeah.
Abby's kind of back the arc that mirrors Ellie's plays out prior to the game,
Hmm.
where she goes on her trip to murder Joel.
Right.
At
Right.
that point, in Abby's flashbacks, I think we see some of the parallels between her and Ellie more clearly,
Right.
where she's just kind of obsessed with this. Right.
Right.
She's got a good thing going.
Right.
At a time where she's like, I heard his brother's down there. Like, we're going to Jackson.
Yes. Yes. She was obsessed. Yes.
Yeah. So in that way, Abby was more her because he, her and Ellie go through similar arcs, but offset in that she has a quest for revenge. She has some redemption, and she doesn't go through with it when she has the opportunity to finish off Ellie.
Right.
And then Ellie's same story shifted 3 days / months, or however timelines work there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It is really about, yeah, actually reminds me a lot about Romeo and Juliet. Except for without the lover part, but it's just kind of like what happens when in the story of a Romeo and Juliet, when Romeo and Juliet doesn't really exist, right? and it's just people killing each other generation. Yeah, yeah, generation after generation, because it never ends, right? Like, there's no solution to that, right? Like an eye for an eye. You killed me. You killed one of ours. I'm gonna kill you or more of you, right? Like, no matter how, it's not like a metered justice at that point. It's kind of like you do it, either you do it or you don't. If you killed, and then I'm gonna seek revenge upon you as much as I can, right? And it just goes on. And I think that the solution, yeah.
Doesn't Tommy, like, first of all, I thought Tommy got shot in the head.
Yeah, me too. And I was like, dude, like, how'd you come back to life? Like, yeah.
I think he was actually shot in the eye or something like that. To make this
Yeah. That's. Oh my God, you're on fire, dude. That's like a good observation. Yeah, good connection. An eye for an eye. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess to make that metaphor, that's right, quite right. But at the end, I feel like, honestly, I thought Tommy is not like that type of person, though. Honestly, because I think he would.
He isn't.
Yeah, because at first I thought he was like trying to prevent people from going, right? he was like, all right, you know what, Ellie, I'm gonna take care of this myself. I don't want more people to get involved in this, because he knew better, right? He knew how this would play out. And I was kind of getting the feeling, because he still had the kind of mature kind of vibe to him, right? And the last scene with him just lashing out on Ellie for not going seeking revenge.
It seemed weird.
Yeah, that was really out of place. That was really out of place, because I think that like Tommy's character is like more mature, like has been through this, you know. If you remember at the very beginning, I was kind of getting this vibe like Tommy's very much attached to Jackson, and he's like, yes, it is my brother, but you know, like this is the world as it stands, right? And let's be okay and just be happy and be content with the good things that we have that are going on over here, right? Because if you imagine this like a revenge, okay, I feel like if we keep calling it a revenge tale, it just kind of like reduces the amount of nuance in this. But this whole story just kind of become like a attrition, right? You start out with one, as time goes on, you just kind of getting worn off. Like there's, you know, like it's like a journey of attrition. It's not a journey of growth, right? And
But I think
yeah,
it's very easy in the game sets it up this way for you to forget that, you know, Tommy has lost his brother, because you spend so much time with Ellie.
Right.
You get to follow Ellie. You get to feel her loss.
right.
And you essentially spend 3 days finding Tommy.
Yeah, yeah,
So you don't feel any of his pain so much. You see a little bit at the beginning, you know, at that time, maybe kind of, you know,
just hit it.
it's
Yeah,
implied that he's kind of whipped by his wife.
right.
He is not clear how much he wants to take on, but he ends up doing it himself, so it's clearly somewhat motivated.
Right.
I
But
think
isn't
it's interesting
yeah.
they set up this world and one of these characters where you don't really see any of his pain
right?
until the end, where he acts in this way, which seems
Very inconsistent.
because you
Yeah.
kind of forgot that he's a person that lost his brother.
Well, I didn't forget about that. I just formed the impression from the get-go that, you know, people have a good thing going there, you know, and don't start this chain, because it never ends. It's really hard to get out of, right? Like once a person dies, he dies, right? Like what else are you gonna do? And then you kill someone else, and then that's more lives gonna kill, getting you know, more people to mourn for, essentially, right? And I thought my interpretation at the start is like, of course it's gonna be sad, right? Of course it's sad that it's his brother that was not there anymore. But I remember at the time, maybe just me, you know, wishing that he thought this way, being such a guy who has seen it all, right? Like, don't start this revenge. But
I think that's
yeah,
the assumption that we would have. Like,
yeah,
like we're probably jumping a lot to get there because you know we're ruining things in a reasonable way, but like we don't see it that much.
yeah. That's true. We only see what we're shown, right? So,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought the Tommy thing, I agree, was very off-putting. It was a little bit weird, but
Yeah.
they have their reasons.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just kind of like inconsistent in my head for him as a character. Because no, if you actually think about it, right? Like in the first game, Tommy thought Joel was dead, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because like Joel just like doing this like cross country run and a smuggler delivering goods. So for a very long period of the time, Tommy was just like, oh, my brother.
Like, they hadn't spoken in years.
Yeah, they haven't spoken in years. So, you know, like I'm not saying that he's not close to Joel or anything. Of course, like they further lived their lives in Jackson. Of course, they have probably the opportunity to gotten closer to each other. But the idea here being that Tommy's character, I don't know if it's really impact from there. Maybe I'm just trying to make a case for the fact that Tommy is just like the person who wanted to forgive at the start, but that might be pushing it, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. It's you do spend a lot of time looking for Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't show up, becomes a device to track him down, to push the plot forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's talk about redemption though. Oh, actually, the other thing that I really thought a lot about is again back to Ellie and Abby. I see a lot of similarity in them. It kind of reminds me of this like classic video game thing. Like you have to end up fighting yourself. Because from a player standpoint, right? Like by the time that you spend probably 10 hours as Ellie, and then you spend another 10 hours as Abby, right?
Yep.
And then at the end, I noticed there's like some very interesting feeling that I was getting when you all of a sudden become you're Abby trying to kill Ellie again, right? And yeah, it's not just simply conflict, right, within yourself. It's kind of like it's very interesting. I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's like within myself I'm like fighting with myself. Like, I have to kill myself, right? Like from a player standpoint, you have to literally trying to kill the player's avatar from the 10 hours prior. It's a very intriguing experience, like I haven't really felt anything like that. I know this kind of like kill yourself theme has happened again and again. For example, like in Zelda, like Link, you have to kill the Shadow Link, and a Metroid, you have to kill the Dark Metroid, and I mean the list, yeah. The list just goes on, right? So it's like a classic thing, but the thing is, you never really spend that much time as the Shadow clone, so you wouldn't get this feeling ever. I've never gotten this feeling. It's actually a new feeling for me,
I wasn't sure what they would do. You have this very clear climax that people look towards, and you're like, no. I think myself, I don't know what other players are thinking. They think when they get there, they're going to hop back in Ellie's shoes because this is just some extended flashback.
Yeah.
But now when you're fighting, it's like, wait a second, is Abby the main character? Or
Yeah, you're all of a sudden acting as Abby. I thought you would switch back to Ellie, right?
Yeah.
But then you kept on playing as Abby. So clearly that Neil Druckmann has taken a stance here. Ellie has gone too far. She has fallen too far. But that's his judgment. That's beside the point. But I'm just talking about this feeling, right? Like when you're hunting down the avatar you have created, spend time with, right? Like the gears that she is using are the ones that you have chosen. Essentially, you have upgraded, and then you have to go ahead and destroy that. And I think there's a lot more things in that experience in itself for me than I can actually understand right now. But that was very interesting, and
I think so. I think it's gameplay wise, I think that part takes people off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's right. You are making the statement of like who is the hero here and who is kind of the villain. And I just remember when playing it, you probably, as you're playing with Abby, you'll probably die a few times because you don't realize right away that if you try to attack her head on, she's gonna shoot you with a shotgun or
right. Yeah.
So then you have countless scenes as you try to beat her, like Ellie murdering Abby.
Right.
And you have this weird feeling of like, is this good?
Yeah, exactly. Like you get confused, right? Like because like the same thing happened again when I was trying to beat down Abby, like as Ellie, and I'm like, dude, Ellie, don't fight her. What are you doing? Like, and then so I was literally just standing motionless, and then Abby came over. Yeah.
She goes up and punches you in the
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I was like, dude, like, so that's not supposed to be scripted or something, like, yeah, that I definitely felt that too, and I was like, man, like, can I just like not fight Abby and just accept and actually forgive, like me as an Ellie, I forgive you, and but it has to,
So I'm used to playing a lot more like
yeah,
more RPG style games where
right,
you do have choice.
right,
Um,
right,
where this one is very much you pull through the narrative, and
yeah,
that becomes abundant into the first Last of Us,
right.
where I'm sure like a lot of people are sitting there being like, Joel, what the hell are you doing? Why are you murdering everybody? They're about to save the world.
Yeah, yeah, but again, I understand that though, right? Like I think that's like the human part of Joel really came out.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
the human part of him, you know, this is not a story of classic heroes. This is a story of a person who is selfish. This is a story of a person who is very much just like the rest of us, right? You know, the rest of us, the last of us. Yeah, but yeah, so that's why it really had an impact on me. You know, like the non-classical hero from the first, and you
How
know,
long ago did you
yeah.
play the first one?
I think like 5 or 6 years ago. I think.
5 to 6 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
You probably around the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it really had a lot of impact on me because like it's very nuanced in building up these like a subtle shades of the characters, you know, like I really like that, you know, as a technique, as a craft. Naughty Dog is really good at doing this, and and you know it's like a subtle tone. It's the music, it's the ambiance, and you know the random commentary that Ellie just throws out when she sees something. Really helps you see that, right? Like see how the character is. But I feel like yeah I really like that part, and
The
yeah,
part surrounding the game is or that aspect of the game is very, very well done.
yeah, I agree,
It is very immersive.
right. Yeah, and the best part about this game, it's like, you know, like this very interesting journey of discovery as a player. It's like the same sentence they have written are can be read in a lot of different ways as more information is actually given to you. You know, so for example, it's like when Abby first shows up, right? She says something. You remember that, and then there are a few interactions with that, and later on, you start to find out more about her as a character, and you see why she did what she had to do. You know, like this gradual peeling of the onions to reinterpret the same scene is very interesting. It's like very good at creating this real life example of an epiphany. You know, like all of a sudden, oh, new information is given to you. You know, you have one read of the scene, but then when more information is given to you, and then the scene all of a sudden become a lot richer. You know, for example, the interaction with the initial dialogue between Ellie and Jesse and Maria and Dina, and as time goes on, you find out more about the context around them before the events actually lapsed, gave those scenes a lot more meaning. I don't know if you remember those. I don't have very concrete examples.
So
Yeah.
I was very confused initially. So
Mm-hmm.
you watch the trailer. The
Huh.
trailer is the scene of the dance.
Yeah. I watched that.
In
Yes.
Brazil,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You see the trailer. You expect the game to start with that, but it happens at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it does serve to add kind of weight to those moments.
Right.
But the way I felt like the way all the flashbacks were set up, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it took away weight from a lot of the gameplay. Where you were like doing a bunch of these things, but you didn't have like you didn't care enough, especially about Abby,
Right.
to play another 10 hours of that. They like slowly add things in there, but like
Right.
I didn't feel like it was enough. So I didn't feel like it was paced well enough. And I always wonder if like would it make more sense for the game to give you like one day Ellie, one day Abby, one day or like
Yeah.
just completely finish Ellie and like Abby is game 2 or something like that.
Hey, you should keep playing Nier Automata. They definitely do that. So I don't know how many endings do you have?
I think I've only done 1.5 endings.
All right. Yeah, you should keep doing that though, because like it's very different. There's like a lot more stories happen at the end. But again, this is about The Last of Us 2, not about Nier Automata. But yeah, I can see I see where you're coming from though. Like for example, because of the gradual reveal of the story elements, I guess it does put a lot of strain on the player in understanding the scene. I get that. Just for
Because you're
yeah,
playing as Abby without
the context. Yes.
Abby is
Yeah.
a very well realized character,
Right.
but not when you start playing as her.
Yeah. Yeah. That part, but I think that part was thrown in there for a different purpose though. Like for a different purpose of showing the point that, you know, there's no real good or bad here, you know.
Yes.
And the good, the hero that all of you celebrated for, can just as be just as much an asshole as the guy that you're killing, you know.
Yeah, and the villain can be as
Heroic, right?
Can be heroic,
Right.
but like
Right. And
I get all of those things.
and then
It was just delivered in a way.
that's like a slap across the face. Yeah.
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 And you know, I remember like read some Metacritic reviews. It pretty much boils down to like everybody hates Abby.
I know, but I don't really.
Which is really cheap.
Yeah, I don't really buy into popular criticism though, because I think like any type of popular criticism, it generally falls into the genre of you know, overly stereotyped, generic, and lack of substance. You know,
Of course.
and so I don't really. So anytime there's a popular opinion, I generally take that with a grain of salt, especially in
And I'm
yeah.
not agreeing
Yeah.
with like what the 3 rating on the Metacritic or anything like that.
Right.
But I do think it could have been, you know, that theme of like
Right.
the theme that sticks or the theme that is conveyed very strongly
Right.
is that revenge is bad and everything
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I do think that there's much more than that, but I think it's maybe not delivered in the best way.
That's
to
true.
all that out.
Yeah, that's true. I think I 100% agree with that. Like I said, right? Like even as much as I want to accept this this attempt, I still had a lot of trouble connecting with the character. You know, you know, I really wanted to kill her when I started it, right? So from that standpoint, I agree. But the part that I really want to give Naughty Dog credit for is that you don't really see this type of attempt anywhere else.
It is very, very different.
Yeah, this is very different. Like the mainstream Hollywood narrative, or even like some of the semi-indie, semi-mainstream narrative, would not even pull something so boldly as that. It's like it was so bold that, you know, it fringes upon this, you know, being too rough, too indelicate to the person who's actually experiencing it. But I still want to give them credit because, you know, like a Naughty Dog is like #1 story-driven studio in the industry, and then the game carries such a huge weight in the industry, like The Last of Us. And given that status, right? Like they're given that status, given that much pressure, they're willing to try something so drastic. And I think that attempt in itself, it's very refreshing.
I agree.
Yeah, and yeah, frankly, I kind of enjoyed, you know, thinking through that a lot more than when I had to control Abby for another 10 hours first. So, yeah.
Yes, any game that can make you think about it and have discussions like this is,
Right.
doing something right, even if there's parts of it that you kind of dread.
Yes, for sure. Right. Oh wow. Yeah, I still have a lot of other things, but
How many notes that you take?
no, it's just like things I thought of. So I think we covered a lot of the topics, right? Like good and evil, heroes, nuances, and the purpose, and yeah, and then I mean the other part is really about dying. It's just like how quickly they killed off. Like I thought Tommy was dead, honestly. Like, yeah, I mean obviously Jesse, like without even it just like came so suddenly, right? And all the people who just got killed kind of reminds me of when I was reading a Farewell to Arms, by Hemingway. I mean, there's like this one scene he was trying to describe how just unjust you can die. Like you could just die because of without any warning. You just yeah.
The entire game,
Mhm.
when first of all, you get the game, it's gonna be a sad game.
Mhm.
A bunch of the characters you meet probably
Right.
so my assumption was like, Dina's probably gonna die. That's the thing with the game.
Yeah.
And then Jesse pops up. It's like, oh, Jesse's definitely gonna die.
Yeah, when I was talking to my friend, I was like, "Wait, the Asian guy's gonna die first, right?" I was like, "Man, come on, do better than that." But anyways,
Well,
yeah,
I'm not gonna complain about that because Yara and Lev is kind of
yeah.
replacing
True.
ways.
True.
But so Jesse is kind of the most
Upright, morally,
virtuous.
yes,
Yes.
that's true. That's very true. But still about the topic of dying,
Manny.
though. Yeah, Manny.
So I
Yeah.
wanna bring up Manny
Yeah.
Because they don't get their face wrapped in the same way.
Oh, dude, like so out of nowhere, just
Just out of nowhere.
bam, and then and then they're dead. And yeah, I agree. But on the topic of dying, though, like I know I had that expectation, but the way that death comes about, there's usually a ritual. Like when I say ritual, it's like a quote unquote, especially in movies, right? Like in this type of in novels, there's always some hints thrown around, right? And I what yeah.
Once I saw Jesse, I knew he was gonna die, and I kept asking myself, "Is it gonna be a slow, dramatic death?
Right.
Or is it gonna be completely
Yeah.
random? That'd be kind of completely random."
Yeah. But this kind of complete randomness, it's not like I want to draw a distinction between just random death that happens to like some extra in a movie, right? Like that's random death. You don't really care, but this death is kind of handled in a way that kind of evoked this idea in me that in this cruel world, life is really hard to come by. Like it could just be you open the door, and then bam, you're done, right? You just greeted your friend, and bam, you're done. And I think that way of portrayal of death, how that comes about, really highlights the cruelty of the world in itself for me. Like this is a very, very different world than the one that we live in. I mean, technically, it's probably the same world, but like by different, in different contexts. But the idea here is like life sucks, man. Like the world is cruel, and you can just die like that with no reason,
Yeah.
no glorious reason to, no background music, no credits roll when you die.
Just like it's the same effect when you clicked on somebody's head with your hunting rifle. It's essentially just that.
Yeah, exactly. And like back when I was reading Hemingway's novel, like A Farewell to Arms, that scene when he was describing the soldier's death reminds me exactly like this. And then in Hemingway's way of portraying that randomness, that cruelty of the world in bestowing death upon individuals, it's almost ironic. Like the way that he was describing it is like a squad made, and they were doing a mission. Nobody wants to do it. It's like really cold, really cruel weather, and all of a sudden they start to hear like enemies, so they start retreating, and then in the act of retreating, right, like you spook your friendlies who are further behind you than you are, and they all of a sudden start to think that you guys are the enemy, and so as they continue to retreat, they start shooting at you. So essentially, it's a friendly fire, and so they're just kind of trying to escape, right? And then during the process of escape, as you were this one soldier was watching for the enemy, and then he got killed, and you don't even know where that bullet comes from, and then he just dead in so Hemingway's character in the movie is like a doctor or something, and then died in his like vicinity, and then just bam, pop, like there he went, like, and then and that kind of like a coldness of death, that kind of theme is also kind of reminds me of it. I don't think it's a major theme of the game at this point, but they still portray that, like that, which is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they do vary it, depending on some of the importance of the character and the weight of the character. I know some people were kind of, they felt Jesse's death was very cheap. They probably didn't care about Manny, most people.
Yeah.
You know, the main kind of deaths in the game are
Right.
that of Joel and then that of Yara.
Right. Right.
And those ones are, they have the fanfare. Not fanfare is not the right word, but
Yeah.
there's the swell, and they're treated with the proper, or at least better weight.
Right, right. Yeah, but part of that is also because I feel like Manny's handling, I mean, he's all around great guy,
Yeah.
I feel like he is just he fits in that mold a little bit too well to to really have any edge, if you may, right? Like, because there's always that character, like, who's like suave, like, like kind of like not like a broy, not like a waspy broy kind of character, but like South American, ethnic, and like very suave, very chill, and very tolerant, and so that's kind of the character that he reminds me of. And he just behaves exactly like that guy, and so
He's fairly stereotypical.
yeah. So from that standpoint, I kind of like just didn't really quite register him, and Yara, yeah, like, but in a way, I feel like she was a little bit stereotypical in a way as well, but probably a little bit better than Manny. But the way that Jesse, it's not about the character though. I feel like it's more of, I don't know why I just paid attention to it. Well, not because of I'm Asian, but I hope not. But I think it's really he just he opens the door and he fell, and then there's that, right? And then he isn't quite talked about. I'm not saying, in fact, like, it's the fact of lack of talking about it. A lack of remembering this, given his aspiration. Maybe it's probably because the aspiration's like more flushed out than the other ones. Because for Manny, what's his aspiration?
Yeah, it's not. His, like, at least in the Abby story, the aspirations maybe not so clear. They are more for on the Owen side.
Yeah, exactly. And then Yara has an aspiration, which is why, like, she has a goal, right? Like, and then goal is not able to accomplish because the sudden, death kind of just rolled around the corner. And yeah, I guess it's probably because like Jesse has a very clear goal, right? Like, I think there's like a couple of times like he was asking Ellie, so let me just be clear, once we kill Abby, we're good, right? And so
Or it's once they get Tommy.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Like, we're good, just so we're clear, right? So, I mean, he is disciplined and he has a goal and he has something that he really cares about, you know? And I think maybe that's the reason, like, he's more fleshed out motivation kind of made me just remember his death more unjustly than the others. Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
he again, he is the most virtuous character.
yeah,
He is, you know, driven in many ways by love. He
yeah.
knows that he has a child,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think Dina knows that Jesse knows. I'm trying to think about that. I don't think that ever comes to light. But
Right,
yeah, his journey is motivated by love, and it's tragic. A
right,
little bit tragic and a little bit quick.
right, right. Yeah, and also not to mention, like it's when do you remember when Ellie was telling uh Jesse, you go, we shouldn't prioritize go to the boat first than saving Tommy, right? That's a clear sign that at that point I was like, man, Ellie, you're done. Like that's not
Yeah,
you're just driven by this singular obsession with something, right? You
right.
don't really care about those who are around you anymore, you know? Like there's no empathy, at least from the scene, and Jesse cares, and Jesse cares very much about that. He's all about friends and family and love and the people around him, and yeah, and that kind of just like stood out to me a lot. So
Yes.
yeah,
In most of the story, he is the. I'm trying to think of his other characters that are motivated in the same way. Probably Yara, she was dead.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it is more rare.
right, right. Yeah, man, this is fun. We literally talked for an hour for a deep
Jeez.
for a deep dive of the narrative of The
Well,
Last of
yeah, I think
Us.
we covered
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
most of it. I don't think many other games will facilitate this type of conversation.
Well, it depends though. I mean,
We
it
normally care more
depends.
about gameplay.
Yeah, that's true. But it depends though. There's like always something worth talking about. Like it's either the element or something like that. Even for gameplay from a game design standpoint too. But yeah, I think this is fun.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Getting kind of tired from talking, man.
Yeah, well, we'll find another thing to play.
Yeah, and then we
Um,
can discuss a little more.
I'm like, I kind of want to, you know,
Yeah,
I think I mentioned I alternate between like happy games and
sad games.
more intense games. So
Right.
like, what did I play before this? Before this I played Subnautica. Before that I played
Right.
Dark Souls. And then later I'm probably gonna do
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Right.
So I wouldn't mind like a lighter thing in the middle.
Right.
Maybe I'll play
Right.
some Mario or something.
You should try Bloodstain, because that game is all about gameplay, dude. Like, the plot doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Is Bloodstained? Maybe. I'll see
Because, like, once you get to...
Having played many Castlevania games,
I see, I
I'm
see.
a huge fan of Hollow Knight.
Right. Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I think there's a bunch of games there.
Yeah, because, like, that... Yeah, dude, I bought a lot. The game sale. Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, but we do need to figure out a co-op situation at some point.
Yeah.
We need to play some co-op.
Yeah, I do have beat 'em ups and
So
yeah.
you said you have Streets of Rage on PC?
Yeah, I have a Streets of Rage. Hold on, let me check. Uh,
It's on Steam. I don't have a PC.
Dude, you should get a PC though. Why not?
I have space for a PC. I have like a lot of them.
I built mine and I enjoyed that. So yeah, just putting. I mean, it's my first time building a PC. That's why. I think you probably have done that before. So.
Yeah, but that was for work.
Right, and yeah, it was pretty fun. So it took me a long time to figure shit out, though. Honestly, like I made a lot of very stupid mistake when I was putting this together. Like for example, I had the fan on backwards, and then I have to take
You might have done that.
So I have to take apart the whole thing. I was like, oh man, fuck this. And then that took like 40 minutes to put back together. So yeah.
Yeah, when I built the computers, I was building them for the lab because I needed strong computers to do a bunch of analysis.
Yeah, I think you told me that too. Right. Oh,
Probably wrap it up there. I'll like do some game. I'll look up for some games. Maybe we can find something.
yeah,
On PlayStation.
for sure.
See if anyone else is involved.
Maybe.
This was fun.
Yep, this is really fun, and hopefully we can find some other game to really geek out about. You know. Start a channel, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, you too. I'll send you the link later. Yep.
Yeah, great.